All right, it's another tier ranking list, and today we're going to do one of the most legendary series ever created, Yakuza. And Yakuza has a really funny history for me. So I played the original PS2 Yakuza game. That's right, it was fully dubbed. It had Mark Hamill. It was very, very interesting. And since then, I've been a really big fan of the series, and today I just kind of wanted to rank them from the best to the worst, and no fancy names or anything this time. I think I'm putting S, A, B, C, D because I feel like those pretty much sum up what I'm liking here. And we have all the games, including Ishin. God, if you don't know who I am, I can't pronounce shit, and it's Japanese Day with all these names, so I am so sorry in advance. You can ridicule me in the comments below. But anyway, we're going to get into this with Yakuza 0. So Yakuza 0 is a game that I played around 2018, so it was pretty much way after it came out. I think it was 2015 here, and I really enjoyed it. This was like a really, really fun experience for me because I played all the Yakuza games up till then, and then I played this one, and this is a prequel to the series, and it has two protagonists who are both very much well crafted, well done, well made. Kiryu, again, like I said, can't pronounce names, so if I'm saying that wrong, just slap me in the comments below, that's fine. But he is here much, much, much younger than he was as the series goes on, and I really like that. I really liked getting his point of view, being kind of young, a little bit naive, but just as fun, just as stoic as he's always been. But I think we could all agree that the highlight of this one, of this series, or this game, was Majima. Majima, am I saying that right? Again, my pronunciation's so bad. Just kind of go along with it. If I get it somewhat right, hopefully you know who I'm talking about. But he was definitely the highlight for me in this game. It was really cool to get to know him and his kind of tragic backstory. So overall, you got these two main protagonists. You go through the game as them going back and forth, which was really cool. And you get so much of this old school vibe. Like, everything feels from that time period. That's something that I feel is different than all the other Yakuza games, because as we go and progress through the series, it becomes more modern with cell phones and stuff. This, you got to go to a payphone, you know, you got beepers, things like that. Kind of brings me back to when I was a child. So yeah, I really enjoyed Yakuza 0 for its more, I'd say, darker and more mature approach. Not that this series ever really is kid-friendly, but I just have this feeling that Yakuza 0 felt more mature in a lot of ways for some reason. I don't know if it was the writing team or whatever, but this one really, really was enjoyable. The only negative I have to say about this game is that the side content was so much that I felt almost like I was like getting a little bit dragged down by it. And also the combat at this point, this was maybe the 5th or 6th, 7th maybe Yakuza game that I played at this point, and the combat has never really drastically changed until another series we're about to get to later on. So I felt like the combat was starting to wear thin here, but the story really kept me engaged. I think that's the huge difference between some of these other games, and for that alone, just the story, the characters, the protagonists in this game, the overall feel of the game, the atmosphere, the time period of it, all of that I really love. So Yakuza 0 is high up there. That's an A for me as one of the best Yakuza games out there. So Yakuza 1, this is the remake, which was re-released, much better graphics and so on. I actually reviewed this on my channel, and pretty much my opinion has stayed the same all these years later. It's a good game. Now, Yakuza, the original one, was a good game at the time. Funny enough, if you were back then interested in this game before it came out, a lot of people were hyping this up as like the Japanese Grand Theft Auto. And that it was not. It was nothing like Grand Theft Auto. I think the fact that it was a city and it looked so much like a city that you can explore like Grand Theft Auto got a lot of people hyped. And when they played it, they're like, wow, these cutscenes are like fucking Metal Gear Solid had a baby with Grand Theft Auto. Except it was nothing like Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to stop saying the word Grand Theft Auto. But I just thought that was funny when it was coming out that so many people were comparing that to this. Really, though, it is about a Yakuza who is pretty much going around the city beating the shit out of bad guys. And so I really enjoyed the simplicity of it. I think it does get most of the characters really down packed, just as most of the series does. And one of the major factors I think that boosts this game is the antagonist, Akira. He was in Yakuza 0, but I played this before Yakuza 0. But the fact that he is a close friend, a brother to our main character, really amplifies the story in a lot of ways to make a great antagonist. It's probably one of my favorite antagonists in the entire series, to be honest. Now, the remake did enhance things. It made the city look a lot better, made the combat flow better, but it still had that same beginning feel. Like, this is the beginning of the series, and it evolved to that. Now, like I said, they did enhance it quite a bit when I played it. But when I replayed it, or played this, and I remember I beat the original back when I was a teenager when it came out, replaying this one, it didn't feel like I really needed it. It was nice to have so modern fans can enjoy it, because nobody's going to go pick up a PS2 now and play the first one. But yeah, overall, I think that it's a good, solid B-type game. Kind of like I felt with the original. The original, I felt the same way. I really enjoyed it, but again, these very long cutscenes sometimes felt a little overlong. The story was overall not too many twisty turns, which is kind of a nice thing when we go into some of these other games. But overall, it was the antagonist that was the big push for me, what I enjoyed. And at the time that it came out, it was a fresh concept. It just kind of lost itself after, you know, millions of other open world city exploring games. So that's going into B. I forgot to say that. So Yakuza 2, this is one of the only games that I thought was just okay. As far as I know, Yakuza 2 was never released on the PS2. I was kind of awaiting it, but I think Yakuza 1 didn't sell well in America, so we never got 2, and so I never played it. And then I played the remake version here, and yeah, it was okay. I didn't really enjoy it. If I'm being honest, this was probably the most forgettable one of this series for me. I'm having a hard time remembering the characters and the motivations and the story here, which kind of sucks because it leads to one of my favorite games, 3, which we'll get to in a second. But overall, I'm not going to talk much about it because I can't really remember much. This is one of the more forgettable games, and I think that the combat itself really didn't evolve all that much from 1, from what I remember. This wasn't the major shift that I was hoping for when I played this. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put this in the D because I think it really failed to impress me at all when I played it. And again, I played this like 7 years or 6 years ago. And, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I have no urge to replay this game. Yeah, 2 is kind of that bottom of the barrel for me in this series. So, Yakuza 3 was a PS3 game that I absolutely loved. When it came out, it blew me away because I think the fact that we got Kiryu being more of a protector, more of a father in a way, just really connected with me. It was a different side of the Yakuza games that we didn't get. You know, before that was all about Yakuza, feeling like the mafia, feeling like backstabbing, betrayal. This, we were a protector of a child and an orphanage that we wanted to help raise these kids. So it had this slice of life story that really evolved and grew into, you know, typical Yakuza overdramatic betrayal and murder. There was a death in here, I'm not going to spoil, that really actually made me sad. I was kind of like almost crying. I didn't cry, but it definitely hit me in the feels. And this, I also felt like the jump from Yakuza 1 original and playing 3, this was a nice jump where I was like really, really impressed with the feel and look of this game when it came out. It kind of made me really enjoy beating the living shit out of scum on the street, you know. I will say some of the side activities weren't as good. A lot of, like, this game is not for the people who like more of the Yakuza mafia style story. I feel like this had a lot of slice of life elements implemented, and it's a 50-50. It's not for everyone, but for me, I was really, really enjoying this game. It was a sole protagonist, so it was nice to just kind of get this kind of felt like the end for Kiryu, and I was kind of surprised that they continued his story as we go on. But overall, I really do enjoy Yakuza 3. Does it hold up? That's a great question. This is like kind of a lot of these games I played one and done, so I don't know if it holds up. This was years and years ago, but in my memory, it holds as one of the finer Yakuza games for me. So I'm going to put that in the A, but I'm going to put it behind 0 because I do feel like 0 had a better story and the atmosphere was more interesting and the time period really stuck with me. But Yakuza 3, I really enjoyed the development with all our characters. Alright, so Yakuza 4, this is where I might lose a lot of you. I didn't like this for the most part. I don't think it's awful. I think the idea was really cool, having 4 protagonists, and they all intertwine eventually. The plot all comes together. I thought that was a really, really cool idea. But this game just did not do it for me. The change of gameplay from different styles. So usually Yakuza, you play with 1 character or sometimes 2, and you get a couple of different styles to switch through. This, you play as 4 different characters that all are unique in their own way, and 2 of them, from what I remember, again, it's been a long time, I really, really struggled to get through this game with them, because I didn't care about the story. I thought a lot of it was just thrown, like, so much plot twist, like, just plot twister-roo, just to make a plot twist. I also felt like the problem I had with these characters in this game, the other Yakuza games, you sometimes have a protagonist, and sometimes you have multi-protagonists. They felt like you grew with them. They grew as a character. This game, 2 of them kind of felt like, you know, you got nice in-depth character development, and 2 of them you felt like they were literally plot devices. Again, I'm trying to keep it vague because I don't want to spoil these things, but this game was kind of the beginning of the end for my interest in Yakuza. Like, this one really nosedived for me. Again, the combat wasn't bad. Beating the shit out of people really never gets too boring, but I have to say that I feel like they didn't enhance the combat enough from 3 to this, because Kiryu felt like the same exact thing. Like, again, fans, tell me if I'm wrong, but I felt like the gameplay was the exact same. Like, they literally just took the same thing and put it here and didn't feel upgraded at all there. And then, yeah, Yakuza 4 just failed to leave a lasting impression. I will say I finished it, and I enjoyed it more than 2, because 2, I can't... Dude, if you ask me today who the antagonist or what happened in the story, I can hardly tell you. 4, I remember one of the characters, and the reason why I said they're a plot device, it's, again, I'm not going to spoil it. It's just, I didn't like the feel of this game as much as I was hoping. I thought with all those protagonists, we'd get something special, and instead I got something that was just, okay at best. So, that's going in the CC for me. Alright, so 5. 5 is going to be my hardest one to judge, because there are things I like about 5, and there's things I absolutely don't. So let me talk about something I do like about 5. I really liked what they did with Kiryu here. I like the fact that he has to deal with depression, that he has to learn he has an issue with violence, that he is just kind of growing as getting older, and I do like all of that. So that part I liked. I'm going to put that in a little bottle on the side. I also want to say that I like some of the combat here. I feel like they definitely ironed out the problems I had with 4 with some of the characters' combat. So that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to put that as a plus. And my last plus is that, as always, you got 5 protagonists, and somehow they're able to manage to give development to all of the characters, which is really nice. So I felt like they executed that better than the 4 protagonists in Yakuza 4. So those are the good things. Those are the things I liked about Yakuza 5. But the problem about Yakuza 5 is the story is dog shit. This is the worst story in Yakuza for me. I think this is by far the most boring and poorly paced, constructed storyline that they can give me in a Yakuza game. I did not give a fuck about 40% of this game, which is a huge amount, because if you don't know by now, if you haven't played a Yakuza game, let me just tell you a little thing. If you haven't played a Yakuza game, you're playing about 5-10 minutes of combat and about 25 minutes after of listening and watching a cutscene. So if you don't like 40% of the story that's being told, well, let me tell you something. That's not fucking good. So Yakuza 5 definitely had story issues. I thought the writing, for the most part, except for Kiryu, I did like his stuff, really kind of sucked. It's weird because I don't think the character sucked. I think the story itself and the way it was told was just poorly done, if that makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense. This game kind of gets me heated because, unlike Yakuza 4, where I can personally say I just thought it was completely, like, across the line, there's some really cool stuff in this game, and then some stuff I didn't. And again, the combat was really getting to me. Now, one thing a lot of people love about this game is the minigames. There's a ton of minigames. I have to say, I don't usually like minigames for the most part in most Yakuza, and 5 is no exception. Not a big fan of it, and also you got to use it to unlock a lot of cool moves and things. So again, this is something that I didn't really enjoy with Yakuza 5, but it could be a plus to some who like the minigames. I think this game has the most minigames in the entire series. Maybe, I don't know. Infinite Wealth, we're going to get to in a minute. That is a ton too. But I will say that Yakuza 5, again, is an up and down for me. It has the highest of the highs in some ways for the series for me, and the absolutely lowest of the lows with the story. Again, this is a personal opinion. Obviously, some people can, you know, I was about to say watch Yakuza 5, but play Yakuza 5 and say, no, I love this story. I loved all 5 protagonists. Good for you, bud. But for me, not enjoying the story in this one. This is a downer for the story for me. So Yakuza 5, though, I do have to say I didn't enjoy more than 4, and I did enjoy more than 2, but it's like a really high C. So definitely higher than 4, definitely higher than 2, but not quite in the B. So Yakuza 6 is a really weird game because it's beautiful. I think I had the first one, I had the new engine. So graphically, this game like blew me away when I played it. I was like stunned how good this game looked. On top of that, I really like that we finally got the ending for Kiryu, like just his ending, and it felt like a closure. Of course, that's not true because he's in like 3 other games on this list, but you know, they're never going to let him go. They love him. But let's talk about the other stuff of Yakuza 6. Besides it looking like a beautiful game, this is the kind of one I feel is one of the more diverse in the series in terms of opinions. Some people absolutely hate this game, and some people love it. I am in the middle. I think it looks graphically beautiful. I think it was actually really emotional. I really felt for Kiryu. I felt like he grew as a character as much as he can in this game. And I really just dug the whole feel of this game. It felt like a send-off game, like a swan song type game. Saying that, I will say that the combat was both good and bad. They streamlined it, so it was just kind of easier to get into and beat the shit out of people. But they also took away things that people got pissed about, especially with the mass amount of weapons and stuff. No Battle Coliseum, which is kind of a staple of the series at this point. Again, it's not something that I cared about that much, but I could see why people didn't like it. Also, I felt like this was probably the shortest Yakuza, in a way. I would have to like time them all, but I remember beating this relatively quick. It could also be because I skipped most of the mini games because it's not for me. But I think it's a good game, you know. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. I think it's better than 4 and 2 and probably 5. I don't know if it reached the heights of 5, but I feel like it's definitely a better game overall, in my opinion. It was paced way better, the story anyway. And the story wasn't dog shit, so that's always a plus. Yeah, so this is a weird one. I think I'm going to put it behind 1. I think 1 still is better, the remake. But yeah, Yakuza 6 was a really interesting game for me in terms of overall how I felt in the end. But I would give it a solid low B. You know, not as high as 1, but B. Yeah, B. And now we get to Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon is absolutely one of my favorite RPGs. I think it's phenomenal. Really love that we get a new protagonist with Ichiban. He is absolutely one of the best main characters of the series, if not my favorite. That's right, Kiryu fans. He is my absolute favorite. I just love his overall demeanor. I like that he's more of a goofball in a lot of ways, but I like that he has the heart of a motherfucking dragon. Like a dragon. You get it? But overall, I just really enjoyed the change of pace in this game. The RPG system is not for everyone. It is turn-based, so it's not always the thing that someone likes. For me, as a turn-based fan, I loved it. I thought it was dynamic enough. I won't say it was perfect. I think there were places where they can improve here or there, but I really enjoyed the overall new gameplay feel, especially when playing Yakuza 6. I definitely felt like I was getting burnt out on these games in terms of the gameplay. Like, they all started blending together, and I was just getting like, wow, I am kind of done with this beat-em-up fail. Like a Dragon has its problems. I think it is a little overly long for its own good, and it has difficulty spikes that just pop out of nowhere that beat the living shit out of you. But I really enjoyed it for the most part. I will say that the group that he makes Chichan, my favorite. Oh, she's so cool. And, you know, all of his friends that he eventually creates in this game are really, really well done. The party itself, it has some really cool fourth wall breaking, like Ichiban, like having these people transform into, like, not monsters, but like goofy versions of themselves, like an actual robot character when he's just a normal police officer and stuff like that. Ichiban sees them as villains because he's like a very big like Dragon Quest fan. So anyway, my point is that Yakuza Like a Dragon really surpassed everything I expected. And honestly, when I finished it, I thought to myself, this is my favorite Yakuza game of all time. And that was in what, 2020, 2021? So yeah, overall, Like a Dragon, it's really, 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 really amazing in my opinion. Besides some difficulty spikes, besides some of the combat kind of drying up at the end just because of the structure and the pacing issues here and there, I actually thought this was the best Yakuza that I played currently at that point. So I'm going to put that in the A, very high A, right above Yakuza 0. I really, really, really dug Like a Dragon. Now we have Yakuza Ishin. God, I am so bad at pronouncing. I gotta be honest, this is like the only Yakuza game I dropped about 7 hours in. I just did not give a fuck about what was happening. You know, samurai are awesome. I love samurai. But the feel of this game is so slow. You know, the Yakuza games usually splice up the serious melodramaticness with the comedy, and I felt like this game had almost no comedy. So about 7 hours in, I just kind of gave up. The combat really didn't impress me, especially coming from Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I preferred the new RPG combat turn-based system. This one was just back to the beat 'em up with a sword. Yeah, overall, this game just, I don't think was for me. This is pretty much the only one I didn't beat, so I have to put it behind too because I didn't give a shit enough to beat it. So, Yakuza Like a Dragon, The Man Who Erased His Name, the longest fucking title to ever exist. Good. It definitely felt like DLC. It definitely felt like this was like the scraps of Like a Dragon, but for Kiryu's story. Instead of doing dual protagonists, they maybe felt it was too long. They're like, let's make his own game. But this game was, up until this point, I would say Yakuza 6 was the shortest from what I remember. But now I will say this game is definitely the shortest. I beat this game in like 8 or 9 hours. Overall, it was good. It was enjoyable. The combat system went back to the beat 'em up. But since the game was so much shorter, I didn't feel like I got bored with this game nearly as quick. You know, I was actually interested in what was happening behind the scenes with Kiryu, so I did like his story in this game. But I will say that it doesn't feel to me like a complete Yakuza experience. It also feels like if you don't play Like a Dragon, it doesn't have the same impact. If you play this by itself, it still has a story that is, you know, told and you can understand what's happening, but it feels like it adds to Like a Dragon so much more if you play Like a Dragon first. So anyway, I think it's an okay game. I give it higher than 4 and even 5, but yeah, and 6. I'd say it's like 6 and this are tied. Like 6 is probably a more complete package, but I'd say The Man Who Erased His Name, it's definitely quicker, more fun combat. You also get this thing where you like whip people and bring them in like you're Spider-Man. That's kind of fucking cool. So yeah, overall it's like in the B section. And then we're going to finally get to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Now, I will make a full disclaimer here, because people get mad. I have not beat this game yet. However, I am 34 hours into this game, and I am in Chapter 12. There are 14 chapters. So I feel like I am ready to give my personal opinion, because unless this game absolutely shits the bed in the last 10 minutes of the game, which I doubt it will, this is now certified my favorite Yakuza game. This is not only one of the best Yakuza games, this is one of the best RPGs, turn-based, I've played in a long time. You know, like Persona 5 is very high up there for turn-based in my opinion, in terms of just the overall feel of the combat and flow. This is pretty much the same level, if not even more fun at some points. I think the idea that characters still move around in the stage while you're picking your attacks makes a more dynamic feel to it. I feel the attacks themselves are really fun to mix and match. I feel the teamwork, so the more you talk to your party mate and teammates, you get new things like them helping you finish off an enemy, or double attack, or blocking an attack, things like that, different ways. You get tag team attacks in here. You get ultimate tag team attacks with the whole crew. Everything about that worked really well for me. On top of that, this game has 2 protagonists, which really surprised me because I did not watch many previews for this game, so I didn't really know going in what was happening other than Ichiban was in Hawaii, which was really exciting, a new setting, and they definitely use that setting to their advantage. It's fresh, it's exciting, it's fun to explore this island, but then you also get Kiryu's story, which is a man who is, and this isn't really a spoiler because I put it in the trailers, is dying. He has cancer. And it's such a fucking great way to tell a story about a man at the end of his time. Someone like this character who, up until this point in this series, felt invincible. Like, he survives being killed multiple times. Here, you actually feel like this is the dreadful ending of a fan favorite and a well-established character. Probably the most established character in the entire series. And the way they handle it is beautifully. It's beautifully done. The way he grows and bonds with so many characters that are introduced to him for the first time in this series is wonderfully done. Now, I will say, I'm glad I played the man who erased his name, because there's a character who returns that really amplifies his ending journey here for Kiryu. So I really enjoyed that whole progress through this game, at least at the point I'm at. I absolutely loved it. I was almost brought to tears at one point with him and Ichiban. On the flip side, we got Ichiban's story, which is all about acceptance, all about learning your past and going along with it, which has pretty much been his whole life, but they even do more with it here that I really love. I absolutely loved all the character work for him in this game, and the story itself, the plot, is interesting enough, but it goes into hyper gear around the end of chapter 8 or 9, where it becomes like a holy shit, we're doing this. This is hype. I do like that characters die in this one, and they're dead, as far as I can tell. I really like the cast. This has a large cast. What this game smartly does is it gives you a large cast, but it splits them off to 2 separate stories in 2 separate ways. So you get to know the whole cast and feel like you're not just ignoring characters, because you get to grow with all of them just in separate ways. I really like that. So overall, this game really blew me away. This is the Yakuza game I loved. The mini games are even something that I enjoy. There's a Shojin, I can't say it, but it's basically collecting Pokemon, except instead of Pokemon, they're humans that are dressed up like monsters. Awesome shit going on there. I will also say that the graphics are once again amazing. I really enjoy the main city that you're coming from, but also Hawaii. I thought they really made it different enough that I loved exploring and looking around. Yeah, so I could go on and on all day. I love this game. I think this is one of the absolutely best games of 2024 already, but actually one of the best RPGs I played in the last few years. And I'm talking about games that I've absolutely loved in RPGs, like Baldur's Gate 3. This game, to me, is the best of the best. I'm not even lying. So, obviously, this is my S ranker here. This is going to be hard to top. If I ever find a Yakuza game that's actually better than this one, I would be blown away, because this game absolutely blew me the fuck away. Like, blew my balls off. Like, yeah, like in a good way, not in a bad way. So anyway, that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. As you can see, I have an interesting view on Yakuza. I feel like not a lot of people will agree with some of my placements, like 4, 5, and 6. Those are the ones I see move around a lot. But I have to say that I really enjoyed my favorite games. And I would say my top 5 are probably 1, 3, 0, Like a Dragon, and Infinite Wealth. With Infinite Wealth and Like a Dragon being my 2 favorite. Which are funny because they're the 2 newest, yet this series has been running so fucking long. Yakuza Like a Dragon is officially the 7th game in the series, with Infinite Wealth being the 8th, and 0 being a fucking title. So there's really 9 goddamn games in the main line. If you want to count A Man Who Erases Time, I guess there is 10, but I'm counting that more as like a DLC. Anyway, I hope you liked my video. I was about to say review. Hope you liked my video. I would love to see your ranking below. I don't think there's any wrong ranking with Yakuza. I think different stories will touch people different ways. Different characters just add more to it. And yeah, this is my ranking. I don't know why that little save download thing is there, but yeah, I don't want. Anyway, but I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button. If you loved it, hit the subscribe button. And then, of course, post yours below. I would love to see what you think of the Yakuza series. Everybody, have a wonderful day, and I'll be back for more. I just gotta think of the next video I want to do. I'm thinking Mega Man, the original series, 1 to 11. I'm working through those now, so be on the lookout. That was a kiss. That was weird.